Imagine sitting at your desk and someone just drops a government file right in front of you.
Yeah, a massive file.
Right, and you open it up, and the classification doesn't just say top secret, it says Omega Black.
Which is an incredibly rare designation.
Exactly. The department header reads, Weaponized Animal Division, Area 51 Research Complex. And as you read through the pages, the text sounds exactly like a sprawling sci-fi blockbuster.
But it's written with that, that incredibly dry, mind-numbing, bureaucratic seriousness.
The kind only a government agency can muster. I want to welcome you to today's deep dive because we actually have our hands on exactly that kind of source material, and let me tell you, it is a wild ride.
It genuinely forces you to reevaluate how you look at historical anomalies. You read through this operational summary, and you have to constantly remind yourself that the people who wrote it treated every single word as factual.
Right. It's not a movie script.
No, not at all. The contrast between their mundane administrative tone and the sheer existential scale of the events they're describing is just staggering.
So our mission today is to unpack this bizarre, highly classified chain of events. We're looking at a crashed, non-terrestrial machine, an advanced artificial intelligence,
and this is the craziest part.
Oh, absolutely. And a rogue group of genetically engineered animal operatives who, and I cannot overstate this, somehow ended up altering the gravitational trajectory of the entire Milky Way galaxy.
It sounds impossible when you say it out loud.
It really does. Okay, let's unpack this because before we can even get to the rogue operatives, we really have to understand the inciting incident. Like, what actually fell out of the sky to kick all of this off?
Right. So the file refers to it as the Ohio incident. This took place in the middle of rural farmland in Ohio. Naturally, the initial public cover story was incredibly flimsy.
As they always are.
Right, which is standard for these kinds of historical events. They told the local press it was a weather research equipment crash.
Which is completely absurd when you look at the actual crash site data. I mean, the debris field was 1.7 miles wide. Yeah, if you try to picture a 1.7-mile crater of shattered metal in a cornfield, you quickly realize that is one massive weather balloon.
And it wasn't just the physical size of the debris field that made the cover story fall apart. It was the localized physics anomalies around the impact zone.
The weird stuff.
Exactly. The initial survey teams noted that mechanical watches and quartz clocks were actively desynchronizing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, within a 300-meter radius of the main crater.
Wait, desynchronizing watches, does that mean the blast just heavily magnetized the area and ruined the gears? Or are we talking about literal time dilation, you'd experience near a black hole?
The data actually points to the latter.
Seriously?
Yeah, the fundamental flow of time was distorted. If it were just magnetism, quartz clocks wouldn't be affected in the exact same way, but they were literally losing minutes every hour.
That is wild.
Furthermore, compasses were deviating wildly, gyroscopic equipment was failing intermittently, and the soil in the localized impact zones had undergone severe vitrification.
Vitrification, meaning the heat and energy were so intense that the dirt literally melted into glass.
Exactly.
But wait, isn't that exactly what happens during a nuclear test? Like the Trinity site in New Mexico.
That is the logical assumption, yeah.
Yeah.
But the survey teams found absolutely no ionizing radiation signatures.
None.
None. There was no nuclear fallout, no thermal flash damage to the surrounding trees. The physics simply didn't align with terrestrial understanding.
Wow.
The kinetic and, well, perhaps temporal energy was so dense that it fused silicon in the soil without emitting a thermal shock wave.
So, sitting right in the middle of this glass crater, completely defying all the destruction around it, they find the intact components.
Right, the core tech.
They recover something they end up calling the chronocore. It's described as this massive concentric ring machine built with exotic matter shielding.
It wasn't alone.
No, alongside it, they find a non-human AI core they designate as HAL, which stands for Heuristic Adaptive Life Form. So they crate all this up, drag it into the deepest underground vault at the Weaponized Animal Division's secure research facility at Area 51.
And absolutely nothing happens.
Literally nothing.
The WA.D personnel completely fail to activate it. I mean, they spend years throwing their best minds at it. They can't turn the chronocore on, and they certainly cannot get HAL to communicate or interface with their mainframes.
And there's a very specific, almost embarrassing reason for this failure. The control interface assemblies were literally not designed for human ergonomic use.
They physically couldn't use it.
Right. I kept thinking about this. It's like handing a locked next-generation quantum computer to a human from the Stone Age.
That's a great way to put it.
Not only do they not understand the math required to crack the password, but their hands literally aren't the right shape to use the keyboard. The interface itself physically rejects human anatomy.
That's a perfect analogy. The machine requires a completely different kind of physiological and cognitive interaction. Imagine a control panel that isn't a flat touchscreen, but a contoured three-dimensional sphere.
Okay.
To input a command, you might have to press 5 specific nodes simultaneously, with varying degrees of microscopic pressure, while reacting to visual feedback that is completely invisible to the human eye.
Good luck doing that with human fingers.
Right. This raises an important question. If the machine wasn't built for human hands, and standard W.A.D scientists were completely locked out of the system, what was their next move?
They to pivot?
Exactly. They had this world-altering technology sitting dead in a vault. They had to rely on assets that were significantly more adaptable.
Which brings us to the biological side of the weaponized animal division. Because before this Ohio crash even happened, W.A.D was already running a parallel initiative called Project Bastet.
A completely separate project.
Yeah. So if HAL locks the humans out, W.A.D is stuck. They have a machine that needs hands, but human hands don't work. That physiological barrier is exactly why they had to cross-pollinate the Chronocore project with Area 51's biolabs.
Right, and Project Bastet was a highly classified biological and behavioral development program. Their specific goal was the creation and training of anthropomorphic, human-proportionate animal operatives.
Basically, walking, talking, highly advanced feline agents.
Yes, exactly.
And the specific traits W.A.D engineered into them are fascinating, especially when you consider the puzzle of the alien interface. The trait list includes high intelligence, advanced pattern recognition, and mechanical aptitude.
All essential for the tech.
Right, but they also engineered them for extreme physical resilience, like high stress tolerance, accelerated recovery metrics, and high pain tolerance. And crucially for our story, superior night vision and incredibly fine motor control.
That fine motor control and specialized vision were the missing keys here. The interface likely required multi-point, rapid pressure applications that perfectly mimic the structure of a quadruped's paw pads.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Furthermore, cats naturally see into the ultraviolet spectrum.
Wow, right.
So if the Chronocore's holographic controls were emitting light outside human perception, these operatives would literally be the only ones in the facility who could even see the keyboard, let alone type on it.
That is wild.
W.A.D was initially building these operatives for black site engineering, hazardous systems maintenance, and eventually off-world asset recovery.
I have to push back on the W.A.D leadership's logic here, though. You read this list of traits, and you just have to shake your head.
It is pretty glaring.
Wait, you're telling me they engineered highly intelligent, pain-tolerant beings with advanced pattern recognition, forced them into captivity to do highly classified black site engineering, and expected them to just blindly follow orders?
Yeah, not their smartest move.
That sounds like they accidentally built the ultimate heist crew.
You're touching on a catastrophic oversight by the division's leadership. And it becomes even more glaring when you look at the behavioral traits they intentionally programmed into the group.
Right.
The loyalty thing.
Exactly. The psychological profiles explicitly mention loyalty bonding within small unit structures. They wanted a team that would aggressively protect each other in the field.
So they created a tight-knit family of super geniuses, taught them how to survive in unpredictable, hostile environments, and then locked them up together in an underground bunker.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, W.A.D placed a bonded team of brilliant, adaptable, hyper-loyal engineers in the exact same facility as a world-altering machine that their human captors couldn't operate or even fully understand.
A recipe for disaster.
It was a powder keg waiting for a spark.
And that spark definitely happened. The internal security logs detail what they call the unauthorized egress event. The operatives, who actually start calling themselves the Siege Cats, become fully aware of what the Chronocore actually is.
Because they're the ones interfacing with it. Right. And they realize pretty quickly that W.A.D has absolutely no idea what they're dealing with.
They recognize the existential threat. The Siege Cats look at the sheer power of the technology. They look at the bureaucratic incompetence of their human captors, and they make a calculated determination.
Which is?
The Chronocore is far too dangerous to leave in human hands. They decide they aren't just going to break out and disappear into the desert. They are going to take this massive piece of alien hardware with them.
The mechanics of the heist itself are just incredible to read about. It wasn't just a smash and grab. They used every single engineered trait WAD gave them to bypass the security grid.
Using their own design against them.
Exactly. When the facility goes into lockdown and the lights are cut, the humans are completely blind. But the siege cats have superior night vision. They move flawlessly in the dark.
Unstoppable.
In the middle of the chaos, while alarms are blaring, which their high stress tolerance allows them to completely ignore, an operative named Jazz actually directs 2 engineering operatives, Crispy and Delpa, back into the primary secure storage vault.
They intentionally increase their risk of capture by moving toward the most heavily guarded sector of the base.
Which is insane.
It is, but the coordination is flawless. Crispy and Delpa access the chronocore containment storage. Using their engineered fine motor control, they dismantle multiple massive exotic matter containment ring components in minutes. Something WAD's robotic arms struggled to do for years. They extract the HAL core unit, strip all the control hardware and non-terrestrial interface components, load it all into a heavily shielded transport vehicle, and successfully egress the facility.
And WAD completely loses their trail.
Entirely. Gone.
So what does this all mean? We have this incredible cinematic physical escape, but the technological breakthrough that follows is what really changes the fundamental nature of our reality.
Oh, absolutely.
WAD had this machine in a multi-billion-dollar lab for years and couldn't even turn on the lights, yet the tracking data shows that Crispy and Delpa repair and fully reactivate the chronocore out in the wild in a matter of months.
Which highlights the true nature of the AI. There's a brilliant insight buried in the post-incident analysis. HAL wasn't broken when WAD had it.
It wasn't.
No, it was just uncooperative. The AI is a heuristic, adaptive life form. It doesn't operate on fixed command structures or care about military rank. It evaluates outcome probabilities to select actions that result in the highest long-term stability.
Wait, so it was giving WAD the silent treatment because it knew they'd accidentally break the universe.
That is the core of AI alignment right there. HAL didn't calculate morality. It calculated stability.
Right.
To a superintelligent machine, human bureaucratic ambition, shifting political agendas, and the desire to weaponize technology represent massive variables of chaos. But once the system was restored by Crispy and Delpa, HAL became fully cooperative.
Because the siege cats just wanted to survive and protect their small unit. That is a highly predictable, stable variable.
Precisely. HAL demonstrated persistent cooperative behavior with the operatives. It actively allocated significant processing resources toward the operator's safety, mission success probability, and long-term survivability.
It protected them.
Yes. HAL ran the numbers, evaluated the long-term stability index of the galaxy, and mathematically concluded that a rogue group of bioengineered cats was a significantly safer bet for the universe than the United States government.
That is just, it's a profound insult from an artificial intelligence, but mathematically justified.
Hard to argue with the math.
Right. So the machine is on, the AI is actively cooperating, and the siege cats are out in the wild, completely off the grid. This brings us to the actual function of the chronocore. What exactly is this machine doing now that it's turned on? The file calls it a causality, space-time, and continuum stabilization engine.
Yeah, it is essentially a machine that manages the underlying fabric of reality. The listed functions are incredibly dense. It handles local and non-local space-time curvature adjustment, temporal drift correction, timeline branch pruning, and the creation of entropy sinks.
Okay, let's pause on timeline branch pruning. That sounds like casually cutting off alternate futures. How does the machine actually do that without destroying the present?
Think of the timeline not as a single road, but as a massive overgrown bonsai tree.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The chronocore isn't a chainsaw chopping the tree down. It acts as a pair of microscopic quantum shears. It's snipping off tiny, unstable probabilistic buds so that the future grows in a completely different, much more stable direction.
So it's subtle.
Extremely. It makes extremely small microscopic adjustments to local causality. It alters minor local probabilities, and those micro adjustments snowball into massive cumulative probability corrections across planetary, stellar, and even galactic systems.
And the mechanism for how they are making these micro adjustments is wild. The long-range tracking data mentions the siege cats conducting acoustic waveform deployment events.
It's brilliant.
When you read that, you realize they are using sound. Think about reality as a giant, incredibly tense pane of glass. If you sing at the exact right frequency, the glass shatters. But the siege cats aren't breaking the glass.
No, they're stabilizing it.
Right. They're purring at a highly specific, mathematically perfect quantum frequency that causes space-time to gently vibrate and bend, redirecting massive gravitational currents.
And we know this is having a tangible effect because W.A.D is tracking the macro data. There is an astronomical anomaly out there in deep space called the Great Attractor.
Sounds terrifying.
It is. It's a massive localized gravitational anomaly. And for all of recorded astronomical observation, the Milky Way galaxy has been drifting directly toward it. It represents a potential cosmic collision of unimaginable scale.
Bad news for everyone.
Very bad. But W.A.D's long-range astrophysics data shows that over the last few years, the net velocity of our galaxy toward the Great Attractor has measurably slowed.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I want you to really think about the scale of this. Imagine dropping a tiny pebble into a small pond in rural Ohio, and the ripples from that pebble somehow change the deep ocean currents of the Pacific.
Exactly.
That is what the siege cats are doing. They are out there in the dark, using a non-terrestrial machine and their own engineered biology to make microscopic acoustic tweaks to reality. And those tweaks are actively steering our entire galaxy away from a cosmic collision.
What's fascinating here is that the file clearly states the chronocore does not violate physical laws.
It's not magic.
It isn't magic. It simply operates within the fundamental laws of physics at a level of precision and scale that is entirely beyond human capability or comprehension. HAL is executing a long-horizon, multi-millennia stabilization strategy.
Using the cats.
Yeah, it is utilizing the siege cats as its highly mobile, highly resilient engineering and intervention units to do the physical work of adjusting space-time.
So the galaxy's trajectory is literally being altered as we speak. We have rogue operatives out there armed with a space-time stabilization engine overriding the physics of the Milky Way. How does the weaponized animal division, the people who lost the tech and got outsmarted by their own lab project, actually respond to this?
Their response is perhaps the most shockingly pragmatic thing in the entire document. Under the official recommendation section, W.A.D concludes that recovery of the chronocore is strictly not recommended.
Wow.
They admit, fully and on the record, that the siege cats have functional control of the system, that they are conducting ongoing successful stabilization operations, and that a human tactical team trying to ambush them and remove the core could cause unknown large-scale system instability.
Or mess with it.
Their official classified policy is literally continue passive surveillance. Do absolutely nothing to interfere.
They just throw their hands up, they look at the data and say, leave the cats alone, they're doing a better job than we ever could.
Basically, yeah.
And there's this handwritten note appended to the very end of the file. The author is unknown, probably some high-ranking director who finally saw the writing on the wall, but it really captures the existential weight of the entire situation.
It's a powerful note.
It says, "We had this machine for years and we never made it work. They repaired it in months. The machine is running, the numbers are improving. And now, for the first time since we started tracking it, our drift toward the Great Attractor has slowed."
And then the writer adds a final chilling thought. I don't know if they're fixing the future or just buying us time. But until we understand that machine, I don't think we should try to stop them.
That is heavy.
It's a rare moment of profound humility from a government agency that previously believed it could control everything it touched. They're acknowledging that these engineered operatives, working in perfect tandem with a non-human intelligence, are protecting the universe in ways human bureaucracy cannot even comprehend.
It really makes you look at the world differently. You walk outside, look up at the stars, and realize the current might be shifting.
It really does.
And it leaves you with a lingering question, something to think about as you go about your day. If a rogue team of engineered feline operatives is out there right now, successfully making microscopic adjustments to local timelines to steer our entire galaxy away from a cosmic anomaly.
What else are they changing?
Exactly. What minor, seemingly random coincidences or deja vu moments in your own daily life might actually be the result of a siege cat tweaking causality just to keep the universe from falling apart?